PGA Live Before Lock Show. Ben Raza, Jason Roslin, we are both back. We both survived the DFS Open.
We did.
We've got the API on deck. We've got some really fun things tonight, chat, so I hope you guys are ready. But first, you saw me in the flesh swing a golf club, did you not?
I can confirm wholeheartedly that I saw you hit more than one golf shot. I saw you hit at least two. I saw you hit a putt. I may have been creeping through the woods on a couple of those because I was looking for my ball. But I did see you quite a bit out there in the flesh. Ben Raza does play golf, folks.
It was quite a time. It was a bunch of fun. Saw some people. Honestly, didn't get to see enough of you and many other people. So next year we will do it. Better planning. For people in chat, if you were there, it was awesome to meet you. If not, next year we hope to see you guys. But like I said, we have some really, really good stuff here, and it's brought by our friends at SuperDraft who are sponsoring the show. We've talked a lot on the show about their multiplier mode, changing the game, no salary constraints. It's just a different format. It's exciting. You have incentivized to play maybe some guys we wouldn't get in the salary cap format, and we're going to do some fun things tonight with them, are we not?
We sure are. We're going to have some trivia going on where we're going to be giving away 20 tickets, 20 tickets to the $15 long drive this week on SuperDraft. All you got to do is be a part of our show. We're going to have our buddy Jordan Klein coming in and asking some questions in a little bit. So keep an eye on the chat as you listen to my annoying voice and stare at my Baby Yoda shirt. So here's the story about the Baby Yoda shirt. My MME has been so bad, and last week it was because of Brooks Koepka. And if you guys happen to stagger onto my Twitter and see the shenanigans that I go on over there, and it's shenanigans most of the time, I put a tweet out that basically said I'm never playing Koepka again. I'm going to let him beat me from now until the end of time. These weeks, it don't matter. The majors, maybe it matters. I'm going to let him beat me. I don't care. I'm done betting on Brooks Koepka. For me, sports are about rooting for the teams that you like and rooting against the teams that you don't like. In golf, we have this kind of bad stigma that you got to root for everybody. Everybody's got to be good. Well, no, that's not the stance that I'm taking. I'm rooting against Koepka from now on. I don't like him. I don't want to root for him, and I would rather root for the other guy who's ever going against him. So that's kind of my philosophy on it. I wanted to kind of clear the air on it. I just simply don't like him, and I'd rather root against him than for him.
Yeah, I mean, I root against pretty much everybody, so no change for me. We'll see. Brooks is going to be a topic we're certainly going to discuss. We have some weather to discuss, and coming off the Honda, which was awesome. I mean, we saw a -6 winner. It's not going to be that hard, but this is going to be, I'd say, another pretty stern test for these guys.
No doubt about it. The Florida swing, it brings different style of golf than maybe what we're used to normally. Although I will say the stretch of golf we're on right now, from the Genesis being a really fun, good tournament, WGC is a throwout because it's a WGC, obviously. But last week at the Honda, this week at the API, even the next 2 weeks at the Players for the $1 million, and then the Valspar the week after. It's grinded out golf. You got to be good with your long irons, which is great. And the thing about last week was, if you played the weather, you actually probably didn't end up doing that well. Tommy Fleetwood was, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Sungjae Im as well were both in the quote-unquote bad wave to start the week, correct?
Yeah, I mean, last week, it didn't. There's so many factors at Honda, and, we saw Benny on. He was 6 over after the first day, makes the cut. Then he easily could have won the tournament at one point. And it just shows, sure. Absolutely. I don't worry about that. Now, this is in my opinion, a more stark AM. The guys who are going out tomorrow morning look to have a distinct advantage. Now, we've talked, both of us at length, many a times on this show. And then when you look Friday afternoon, you say, wow, that's not what they forecasted. And that is always a danger. But there's no doubt in my mind, if you look right now, the AM PM draw seems to have an advantage.
Yeah, and for people that haven't looked at it, I use Windfinder. There's plenty of ones out there. It looks like we're going to start tomorrow morning off between 10 and 15 miles an hour, which is, not bad. It's decent. It's a basically a club. But they're supposed to get 30-plus gusts in the afternoon. And on a golf course like this, whereas it's not as tricky as it is going to be next week at the Players, it's still tricky. It's still going to affect them. And my kind of thing is every 10 miles per hour is about a shot. So I think we're looking about a shot and a half, 2 shots difference. I mean, last week it did end up being about a half a shot to 3/4 between the splits. It's just that the good players from the bad split ended up winning the tournament. So that's what you have to wrestle with a little bit. This week, though, and this is a good lead into the players. Rory McIlroy is going to be 1,000% owned, and he's in the good wave. So yeah, my article is free this week that I release all my player pools. So if you want to check out what I'm doing with Rory a little bit more in depth, we can. And we're going to talk about it here. I'll ask you first up. What are you doing with 100% owned Rory?
So
100% owned, but
it's an interesting. Everyone knows that I play Rory all the time.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where I think it's a really interesting DFS situation because I consider just locking Rory and playing 100% of them and moving on. And in the same breath, I think it's a very interesting fade situation. I've never seen a split. Rory is in the good wave. The next like 5 to 8 golfers in terms of salary are all in the wrong wave. You have Brooks and Jason Day are in Rory's wave, but like Fleetwood, Decky, Bryson, Xander, all these guys are on the other side of it. So you're talking about a ton of people are going to wanted to play Rory originally. Then the weather comes in. He is going to be massive. And this is a difficult course. If it's horrible conditions, I think that you can get some leverage. So what I'm doing with Rory, I'm going to come in around the field, but I'm really being specific on where I play him. Single entry 3 max, I think his ownership will be even higher. I actually tend to go the other way in tournaments like that.
That's the thing. And we've talked about it on FanDuel too. In the FanDuel bigger dollar contest, he'll be 85 or 90% owned. In the single entry $200 on DraftKings, that's very popular. He'll likely be 50% or more owned. So I think I'm taking that same stance as you. I might just go totally overweight, maybe even close to a lock on MME and fade him in those single entry and 3 entries and limited entry contests and try and get my leverage there. And that's what I spoke about in my article is pick where you're going to get your leverage and understand what you're doing, because there's going to be a threshold of if he comes in the top 5, you're going to likely need him on your team because of how much ownership he's going to get, right? But if he comes outside of the top 5 and he's 70% owned in some of these contests, now you've got a chance to win him. So that's the stance that I'm taking. Sounds pretty similar to what you're taking.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's Rory. If Coolers, who's one of the members of our Slack, he asked me before about like if I came in underweight, like how egregious is that? If you want to take the risk of not getting gutter ball, then you can't do it. Because if you get it wrong and Rory blows the field away, you're going to lose 100%. If you're ready to embrace the risk, I think it's a pretty lucrative spot to get creative. I think one of the more interesting builds is an AM stack without Rory, because anyone that's stacking that wave is just going to start with Rory. So if you somehow get the weather right without Rory, that's one of the craziest type of builds that you can do. And I think it's somewhat interesting.
So, speaking on that, there's not many other guys that are studs. Talking about the guys above 10K, there's none of them playing in that morning wave, right? We got Fleetwood, Matsuyama, Bryson, and Xander, the next 4 guys on the board. They're all in that afternoon wave. Think that's going to bring the ownership down on all of them?
I think so. I mean, it's a situation where I've never seen a draw where they all are in the wrong side. I think
it's insane, right?
It's the same way of what we just talked about. Everyone is going to look at that and say, well, Rory's not on that side. And to me, that's something that we have to consider. I have interest in those guys. It's just not ideal, especially if the wind does pick up.
So let's talk about them just for a little bit. I expect most of them, especially Fleetwood, to come in under 10%. If I had to rank them 1 to 4 in terms of who I'd like to play from this wave, I saw Fleetwood go out last week and definitely play better than the most of his wave. So I think that's where I would play if I wanted to go for the ownership angle. I'm always nervous about Xander Schauffele in the wind. I haven't seen him play well yet, really. X out that one at Aaron Hills. That golf course at the U.S. Open was actually perfect for him. I mean, when he gets spraying the ball, it goes everywhere. So I am a little nervous about Xander. Hideki Matsuyama, I don't know. I mean, okay, I guess it would be Bryson and Tommy if I'm gonna play those 2 guys from the afternoon. How about you?
It would be Decky. I think first, his irons have been out of control, just on fire. Made the cut on the number, and then similar to what we saw with Benny on. He was going to get cut, made that cut on the number, rallied. Then in Mexico, irons were on fire again. Fleetwood is interesting. He's just really expensive. Once again, obviously, the prudent move is to find 800 and go get Rory over on SuperDraft. You're getting a 1.05x on Fleetwood. It's not that big a difference. Probably would just use Rory as the safer play. So I think Decky if I go to the other way, but I'm going to try to get exposure to all these guys because they're the best players in the world, no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. All right, so let's break here for just 2 seconds, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up our lineup builder here that we have. Give me a second.
We're off on the trivia. I like it. We got some.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was just about to say, I believe we should be coming up to our first trivia question. So go on, check it out. If you guys aren't in the chat, it's who won the FedEx Cup in 2019. So that's an interesting one. Looks like we already got some answers there. Okay, so what I wanted to do here is I wanted to do a build with Rory just to show what we're looking at and why maybe, in my opinion, and I had to, let's just mention, you can see here he's 37% owned. So when I first saw that number, I had to message Alex and awesome, of course, Alex Awesome Baker, our boss, our buddy. And he told me, and I quote from Alex, Rory's top 5 in odds to win are some of the best he's seen in this type of circumstance. And at 11,800, he's actually underpriced in this field.
Yeah.
So when I got Alex telling me that, I pretty much have to say, all right, you know what? You just take the 2x, you go 80%, and you live with it if Rory misses the cut, right? I mean, you take that chance. That's kind of what it's saying to me. So anyways, 7,600 left to spend if you just put in Rory. Not bad. You can get in guys like we've talked about before, JT Costa and Harris English, and kind of build a nice balance line there. Wanted to try, though, really quickly, what it would look like if we wanted to get really against the grain with Rory and Tommy Fleetwood. And because Tommy's 11K, we actually get 6,800 left to spend. So I think it's going to be a really low-owned stack, especially with how much salary you're going to use. I happen to like probably 20 guys at 6,800, but I can guarantee you there are 4 guys that I know that I'm going to play right in that lineup right there. If you read my thing, Matt Wallace is one of them. We'll talk about Matt Wallace here in a couple of minutes or a little later on in the show. But, yeah, there are plenty of guys at 6,800 if you want to do that build. So real quickly before we move on, because we haven't even got to any other guys playing in the morning wave, if you're not playing Rory and you're going into the morning wave, who's the first guy in your line?
So you obviously, as we talked about, you don't have the luxury of choosing from a lot of the top tier. It's going to be Brooks or Jason Day. Mm-hmm. I think it would be Day for me personally. Just Brooks is interesting just from the tournament standpoint. His price is depressed. He's not playing well. It was mostly the putter, and Florida is where he should excel in life. So I don't mind it. You can easily pair both of them. You have Finau, you have Fitzy working down. And then for me, you mentioned 6,800. My common build is start a little more balanced up top and then really hit the low 7K range. Guys like Noren, Ryan Moore, Maverick, Bud Cauley. There's a million guys in that range that I like. And you have so many options in terms of what you can do. Neiman is another guy in the AM wave. So that's where I found myself building. It's just the elephant in the room is going to be Rory this week.
If you take out Brooks Koepka's 2 majors last year that are on my screen right now that hopefully everybody sees, he only gained more than 3 strokes twice the entire year. It's on average. A player like Brooks, who's the #1 player in the world, shouldn't be doing that. Now, we're going to go back to Rory. I'm going to transition to Rory back in a second. Not only does Rory gain strokes every single week, he's got some of the best strokes gain numbers we've ever seen. Right now, he's averaging almost a third of a stroke better than everybody else in total strokes gained. It's pretty insane when you look at it like that. I just can't ever get across coming to play this guy anymore.
So I just want to jump in real quick because you mentioned this before. I think that they have a hard cap on him, specifically on DraftKings at 12K in terms of a ceiling, and Rory should be over 12K in these tournaments. Yeah. The ownership is going to mass to the point where even though he's clearly the best play, from a game theory standpoint, you're going to have opportunities to go elsewhere. And that's really what we're going to deal with for a while if they refuse to price him over 12K.
Yeah, it's something we're going to absolutely have to deal with for sure. when we start in the 9Ks, now going on, you mentioned Brooks. Adam Scott looks like he's going to come in as one of the most highest owned players, especially in this range. He is, I believe, playing in that morning wave. I believe he's actually in that Jason Day Brooks kept a threesome. So Adam Scott, coming off the win a couple of weeks ago, had a letdown in Mexico. Are you playing him at all? Are you playing him underweight or overweight the field?
I'm underweight, and it's just a product of opportunity cost. I went more down to Brooks and Day when I wanted to go balanced. I have Rory in that wave. And naturally, if I start in the PM wave, I'm not going to take Rory because that doesn't even make sense. He's not in the wave. So we'll see. His irons, they're so consistently good. They weren't great in Mexico, but we saw at Genesis what Adam Scott can do. I don't have any qualms about playing him. I think he plays well. But for me at 9,700, I think I can get away with him and be just fine. 1.1x on SuperDraft, not that enticing either.
Yeah, for sure. One guy that was probably the second guy in most of my lineups this week, if you want to go totally balanced and skip Rory and get the morning wave in, the first guy I'm starting with is Tony Finau this week. I'm going back to Finau. We're down below 9K, which I like to pay for Tony Finau. I like that mid-8 range. We can get the normal top 25 from him and get a ton of birdies and get a payout there. But also, his ownership is only about 13 or 14%. So I feel like it's a good leverage spot for me. I think the price is right for him here. So that's where I'm starting. I know I'm dipping into the 8K. He's 8.9. But it just seemed like when I compared it, when I compared him to Adam Scott, we've got 2 top 5s for Tony Finau in the last 3 starts or 4 starts. So I have to say, I don't think he's far behind where Adam Scott is.
No, I don't think so either. And, DFS golf is an interesting echo chamber. We could do we could do a show just on that, but the recency bias is immense. I mean, Tony Finau, it feels like forever, was 30% owned perpetually. A couple times he didn't pay off in big spots, and now he's old news. I mean, you never even hear about him. So he's not going to be nearly as popular as he used to be, and there's a lot of guys that you can go to there. He's in the right wave. He should be able to handle this course. His course history actually isn't that good, and I think that's a good thing because I like the course for him. No problem with Finau. You have Stenson there, who we haven't really seen outside of the European Tour. He's a wild card, but I would lean Finau on a 1v1 there.
Yeah, Jason Day's last performance, you mentioned him briefly. We'll go back to him. You mentioned him. He lost about 2.6 strokes, 2.7 strokes, putting in the 2 rounds at Genesis. Likely the reason why he missed that cut. It just wasn't good. But his game, it has been a roller coaster for quite a while. I mean, when we drop back, we haven't gained more than a stroke on average on his approaches since the Travelers, and that was the only time he did it all last year. So we're still waiting for those approaches to come back. Maybe it's settled off a little bit here. I don't know that I want to pay $9,100 for Jason Day quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, Day last year, maybe one of the on the short list for most extreme Twitter moments when he withdrew and then he went to Disneyland.
Oh my God, that was and he's on Buzz Lightyear's Spaceship Rangers ride in case you want to know that.
Fantastic. Listen, Day, you know what you're getting with him. He needs to be healthy. Seems like he is. Needs to get it done around the green with the putter. Those are the things he did not do at Genesis, and we saw what happened. Had a miscut there. I don't mind it. You have Justin Rose there who's been playing awful. Complete flyer on him. I like him better in the betting market. So it's just a range where you really are just looking for what you're trying to do. I think Finau is the safest. Guys like Brooks and Day are a little more aggressive with win equity.
Yep, I think we're pretty much in line there for the most part. Okay, so you mentioned Stenson as we move down to the 8,800 range before we go into our second lineup build, where I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about pairing up with Rory and the like. So, okay, in the 8Ks, you mentioned Stenson. It's a bit of a wild card, and I think his ownership is going to kind of reflect that. It's going to be that mid-tier, somewhere in the 12 to 15% range. Same as Finau. Same as Ben on, and now he's got the bad weather draw. But Benny cracks me up. I mean, he's one of the most forthcoming guys that I've seen. If you didn't follow him on Twitter, he was talking about putting a car rental up on Thursday night, said he was basically done. A guy on Twitter came back and said to him, "No, Benny, you got 66 all over you on Friday." And sure enough, that's exactly what he ended up shooting and making the cut. And then he got in the top 5. he definitely is 2 bad putting days away from getting out of there as quickly as possible and getting home to his baby girl. There's no doubt about it. But what I did like to see was that he still came out and gave it his best, and look what happened. He ended up coming in the top 5. So if there was no weather, is he in your player pool? And with the weather, is he a lesser of effect because of it?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. It's a guy that, listen, he's a fan favorite. People like him. The putter, I'm not gonna say it's turned around, but it was okay last week, and he's an incredible scrambler. I like him. I always have, and I'm going to continue to play him. I think he's close to breaking through. He just doesn't have the right draw, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with. So tempered my expectations somewhat just because of that, but he is in the player pool despite being on the PM side.
So the wind is likely to affect the approach shots, right? And likely to make it not so that you're on the green. You look at Ben on his last 5 rounds around the green, and he's gained strokes in every single tournament. So that should help him this week if in those bad conditions. But for me, at 12% ownership in that bad wave, I went down to Matt Fitzpatrick, who had a chance to win this tournament last year. He's 8,500. For me, it seems like similar upside. Obviously, not nearly as good a ball striker as Benyon, but what do you make of the pivot to Matt Fitzpatrick there?
Oh, me with Fitzy. I think we saw last year here. Really had a chance, gained across the board. He's a good putter, doesn't need distance here, can be crafty with the long irons, no doubt about it. Strong field doesn't matter to him. I mean, we've seen WGCs, we've seen majors, all of these things right in the wheelhouse. I think the price is fair, certainly not getting a discount at 8,500. I mean, I don't have a strong take on him, but in the right wave, which he is, easily could be your second man into Rory, can be a third man in a balance build.
Yep. And he's got the morning wave, if I'm not mistaken, correct. So that cashes out too. I like the fact that he came here last year and played really well. When we look at his stats, Mexico was okay. He gained pretty much everywhere, had a decent week, not a great week. Genesis was really hot with his iron. So I'm going to say that he's not too far away. And he's just a pretty good, solid play. All right, let's talk about my new obsession just for maybe, I don't know, a minute or two here. Maybe not even. Is he going to miss the cut this week? I know that's not the segment, but is Colin Morikawa going to finally miss his first ever cut, or is the morning wave and, not a marquee tee time going to send him through the weekend yet again?
So, it's funny because this is your boy, and I guess to balance it out, I'm the noted Colin Morikawa hater because I never play him.
Yeah.
I have some interest this week, though. I think at Mexico, people, I don't want to say they got frustrated, but he lost 6 strokes on the green, did not materialize. And he's really, starting to become a guy who's a noted bad putter. I know the sample size is small, but he is consistently losing with the short game. He's wasted some great iron performances.
He should have like 3 wins by now.
I know. If he could putt, this guy would be in the stratosphere because he's getting it done in terms of, cash equity and whatnot. I think he makes the weekend. I think he plays just fine. I prefer Fitzpatrick, but Morikawa is another guy in the AM that you can use in that stack. There's no doubt about it. Short game needs to come around eventually, though.
Yeah, looking at the screen here, you don't see this very often, I'm not going to lie, but in, 20 starts, roughly, maybe a little less. I pulled it up, sorry. 24 minus 6, so like 18 starts, he's never lost strokes ball striking. So
no. But he's barely never gained putting, which is crazy.
It's crazy, right? I thought when I first saw him came out that he was going to be a streaky putter, something like what we saw with Rory, who, we know he can get hot, but he's not. His baseline is maybe not great. I didn't think he was going to be bad at putting, honestly. And he is. Look at how many times he's lost over a stroke on average. It's much more than normal. He's at 3 of 18 starts where he's lost over a stroke. That's 20% of his starts. So little concerning, not going to lie. However, if the tournament is going to be tougher this week, he's not going to have to make as many putts. So we'll see if that actually helps him. All right, let's do a build, and then we'll finish out the 8Ks because I wanted to do a Rory McIlroy. There's my guy here. There he is. Where'd he go? They don't want me to play him.
Sad.
All right, let's try out Matt Fitzpatrick as well with this stack. Rory McIlroy is right there. And all right, so do you want to see what Tony Finau looks like, or you want to see Morikawa first?
Morikawa.
All right.
Get him in there.
Let's get him in there. Now, I would consider this a relatively aggressive build, but as you can see here, we put Fitzpatrick, we put Morikawa with Rory. We're still at 7,100 left to spend. So these are the type of builds that you're going to see my MMEs look a lot alike tomorrow. I feel like these three players, first of all, give me plenty of win equity and also are on the good side of the wave. So how I would leverage that on Fantasy Cruncher, very simple. I would group these three guys together in a group, and I would either put must pick 3 of 3 or must pick 2 of 3 so that I'm guaranteeing a good amount of stacks with these guys. We can go over that at the end if we have a couple of minutes, but wanted to at least show $7,100 for stacking those three guys. That's a pretty good lineup, and that's very similar to the build of last week that won with Tommy Fleetwood and Sung J M. So wanted to bring that up. Any thoughts on that build?
Yeah, I think it's certainly viable. What you want to be aware of, though, is obviously more people are going to be stacking this AM wave. You're going to be funneled to certain builds. Like people who stack the AM wave, they're probably going to play Rory. Then they're going to be, once you start playing Rory, you have 5 spots, but it's not that many permutations. If you take a couple other obvious guys, you might want to leave a little money on the table. If you have a flyer, that's great. Or you could go for a 5-1. Now, I don't like islanding a guy possibly in bad conditions, but it's not the worst thing in the world. If they get through, you have automatic leverage. And then on the weekend, you have plenty of time to make up if that comes to fruition. There's also a real chance there is no split and it doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. I think that's a big thing to point out. If you are betting on the weather, understand that you could pick it wrong. You could pick the wrong guys, or it just simply doesn't end up panning out, right? I mean, last week, like I said, it ended up only being about a half a stroke, 3/4 of a stroke. But if you played Koepka over Fleetwood, you were screwed. So just understand it is definitely adds an element of risk. That's why when you and I always talk about it on the top of the show about the weather, we always hate it because there's already enough variance in the golf DFS game. We don't need any more.
And you can't win. Like, the truth be told, chat, if we don't mention it and there's a massive split, everybody's like, why didn't you? My guys are playing in a hurricane. If you mention it and then the split isn't the right wave, it's like, I stacked the wrong side of it. All it takes is one lightning strike and a delay, and everything you plan for is gone. And the guys tomorrow afternoon play on Friday morning, and they play 24 holes, and it screws everything up. So just try the best you can. Make a stance if you want to. If you want to play it straight up, you can do that. I personally am shading towards that AM, PM, like most people. And we'll go from there. On SuperDraft, like I said, same concept. I'm going to use the multipliers. I'll still probably stack some of it when looking at how I'd construct it. I will say, I know we're jumping around a little bit. Danny Lee, 1.35x. He goes off right in the morning. If you're betting first-round leaders, those early groups, I think, are going to be popular picks, but I totally get the narrative in going there.
Me as well. So it's really incredible. It's 9 o'clock. We've gone through the 9Ks, and we didn't even say 2 words about Justin Rose. Is that how far he's fallen?
So Justin Rose, I said this, and we have plenty of content. If you haven't checked it out, obviously get over there. All sorts of things, but I have a betting article up. I bet Justin Rose to win the tournament, and I don't even love it. He was 40-1, and to me,
it's the last time we saw that.
Pure pedigree. He is losing consistently with the irons. I don't think it's a lost season by any stretch. It's very early still, but there's serious red flags with his game right now. I don't know what to make of it. I'd rather play Day and Finau in the DFS world.
I think so. Me too. I think it's just a little bit safer. So I think we'll take a second to note that if you guys are watching us and you're not in the YouTube chat, we are doing a SuperDraft giveaway where we're asking some trivia questions. The SuperDraft giveaway is the 20 $15 tickets to the long drive, where that contest is $10K guaranteed this week and $2,000 first. For 4 straight weeks, I have a top 10 in the contest, so I'm going to try and keep it going. We'll talk about that strategy a little bit at the end on how I've done it. Last week, I had nobody in the top 10, and I still came in 5th. So It's just kind of how it works when you pick the right multipliers, which is why I really like that strategy. You don't have to hit your core to have a good lineup, as long as you find those low-owned key guys. Okay, so let's move on. Finish up the 8Ks really quickly. Lower-owned guys, Bubba Watson, Mark Leishman, and Lee Westwood. And then the one other guy that we haven't mentioned two other guys in the chalk range. Ty Hatton and Billy Horschel look like they could get a little chalky this week. So of those 5, you like any of them?
Yeah, like I said, they're good players, so I can make a case. I'll say Billy Ho him and Berger were massive chalk last week. They got through. Berger excelled. Horschel had a tough weekend. He's not going to be nearly as popular. I have some interest there. Ty Hatton, I was really worried about him in Mexico coming off the wrist. Seems fine. He's going to be a lot more popular, so I'm not super into it. I think Horschel is where I'd go, but it was a pretty dead range for me. My builds mostly had guys above that, and then as I mentioned, when I dipped, I was more comfortable in the mid and low 7K range.
I mean, the guy comes out and gains 4.3 strokes tee to green in his first start after wrist injury. It's I don't want to say the word concerning, but it's like, whoa, there was no lag time. He seems to be right back. Though I'll have an urge of caution on Ty Hatton he is definitely a very emotional player, and if that emotions get the best of him, he'll be packing his bag before hole 24, let alone hole 36. However, his upside is undeniable. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, we saw it last week. So at 8,100, going to have some. He's going to carry some ownership, though. I think he's going to creep up, maybe close to even 20%. I believe he has a morning tee time as well, so I'm sure that'll draw people to him even more so. I do like Billy Horschel as well. I think that he's playing good enough. He got rid of PXG. I don't know if you saw that. I'm sure you probably did through the airwaves. Obviously, his irons have ticked up over the last couple of weeks, so maybe it has really helped him to go back to whatever he was before, Titleist or whatever. I think they're both, in essence, relatively good pivots to the now chalky Abraham Answer. What do you make of that?
God, Answer every week, I feel like is a difficult decision for me. I always feel like he's overpriced, to be honest. He's playing good golf. He's making a bunch of cuts, but at the same time, I still kind of conceptually wonder where his game is. He's a good tee to green player. He's good off the tee. I don't know if I'm there. I'll be honest. I mean, he has no notable course history. He's only played here once. He was awful. For me, I just kind of go with more known commodities. Give me Kisner. Give me RCB. Give me Ian Poulter going down a little bit.
Yep.
Another Euros excel here. Poulter was good last week. I'm not really there on Answer, and that is kind of an aggressive stand this week.
Yeah, I don't know if I am either. And you know me, I'm the first guy to play Answer normally. So it's definitely interesting what to do. You mentioned Euros are really good here. Lee Westwood has had a resurgence of his career. He's 47 years old. He's making a Ryder Cup run even. At 8,200 with less than 5% ownership, are you going to take some stabs there?
Maybe just a sliver. And listen, I think what you said, the important part, when you can get over with minimal ownership on guys that have high upside, it's really almost I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but people always say, like, I get so many messages about, like, why do you always play Usti? And the real answer is because so many of those weeks I play like 12% Usti and I get 3 to 4x. And it's a guy with high volatility. So when you can talk about getting overweight, maybe with like 8 to 10%, a lot of times I try to do that on guys that I think have that win equity and have that talent.
Totally agree. I don't know why Rocco Baldelli is being called up in that chat, but
fantastic.
I'll give you this tidbit about Rocco Baldelli. He went to Hendricken High School in Rhode Island. He's actually from Jamestown, which is my hometown. I mean, it runs deep with me and Rocco Baldelli.
I haven't heard that. Now we've had some chat is lively tonight. The trivia is
awesome. Yeah.
I do want to say also real quick, and we've dropped this in chat. In addition to the trivia, check out the SuperDraft cheat sheet. There's a free roll in there.
Yeah.
You can sign up. Got some cool prizes, got some tickets in there, and it's totally free, obviously, because it's a free roll. So
Yep.
find that link in chat. Make sure you click it.
Yeah,
Especially,
$200 in cash prizes, some
yeah.
tickets in there, and
So if you're not quick on the draw, because you got to be fast for this. It's like the water gun game at the carnival. You can get in the free roll, no problem, and still have a shot at some prizes.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, so Lee Westwood, a little bit of interest then?
Yeah, I mean, he was another one. He looked really good last week.
Yeah.
Really fits everything you would want here. Nothing really to say. He's just playing good golf. There's no reason to be scared of him. I think he plays well again. I'm not jamming him, but I'm not scared to play him now.
Yeah, totally agree. Looks like now I'm getting made fun of for my Baby Yoda shirt. Listen, I need the Force with me this week, okay? So I decided that Baby Yoda is the only person that's going to be able to give it to me. That's where we are with it. All right, so we're going to go to our Make the Cut segment where it's more rapid fire, but if you like the guy, or we'll say a word or two about them. First one I want to talk about is Max Homa, West Coast guy, had an incredible West Coast swing. Is it time for maybe a little regression, or do you think he's a guy that maybe is just coming into his own and could be a really good player on tour? Or are we in both at this scenario?
So Max Homa's playing fantastic. He was great all during the West Coast swing. He's a California guy. I've said this on the Tuesday show. I don't like the spot for him at all. I think that this could be the spot maybe where people hang on a little too long. I was never really there, so I'm not jumping on now. I don't think he makes the weekend. I think Max Homa gets cut. Again, very aggressive statement, but I don't like him at 7,900.
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of maybe gave away a little bit of my lead or a little bit of my notes on him. West Coast guy, I'm going to say that the regression comes. I would rather go down a little bit further. Phil Mickelson, does he make the weekend?
Are you kidding me? He's not going to make the weekend. I don't know if he's playing in the Seminole earlier in the week. He's not making any form of it.
Yeah, the pro member at Seminole, maybe he made that cut. Scotty Scheffler, afternoon tee time, had a couple weeks off, looked decent in Mexico. I know he ended up coming in with maybe a triple on 9, his 18th hole, but still decent week. Scotty Scheffler going to play the weekend?
Yeah, I think Scheffler's fine. He's another guy similar. I mean, Morikawa's right now at a different level, but Scheffler's another one where we haven't seen the short game carry him many times. He's had a lot of good ball striking. It's been much dicier, not in swing season and not in the early season, but he's a damn good player. We'll see what he can do on Bermuda. I think he plays fine.
Your guy last week who had a decent week. I thought on Sunday he was going to help my one good team that I had. I had him in the $200. He got off to a hot start, made some like 15-footers for par. And I'm like, oh, maybe this will be the day that he posts maybe a 65 and gets to 3 under and gets in the top 5. And of course, I'm talking about Bud
Cauley, yeah. So I got to Florida and I was watching Bud Cauley early. I was just like, you know what, Ben, you truly are a genius. And then I basically, realized that he was about to get cut on Friday. He didn't go full Keegan, thank God.
Yep.
But you know what? This is what I've been saying the whole time with Bud Cauley. He's just getting it done quietly. That was not the answer, but he did not hurt my lineups last week. He made another cut. He gained 2.5 on the approach, lost 1.6 with the putter. I believe in macro building. I've said that 1,000 times. Bud Cauley, and I said this about Fratelli, and then it popped, and now look where he is. He can't do anything right now. These guys, they come in spurts, and I think Cauley eventually is going to pop at the right time, so I'm going to keep playing him for sure.
Couple more names I just saw from the chat and one from me. Rafa Cabrera Bella, back-to-back top 20s, morning tee time. I am definitely interested.
RCB is a friend of the show, Spencer, just mentioned him in chat. Good name to bring up. Gained 4.5 strokes in Mexico with the ball striking, a couple with the putter as well. I am in on RCB. I feel like he's a name we haven't seen much of. He fits his course fine. He's good with the long irons. His lone appearance was a third. I'm glad to see that, but at the same time, I wish he had just more data because I think when people see that, they overrate it. It's a sample size of 1. But I do think he plays pretty well this week.
I'm in on him for sure. Joaquin Niemann, the Chilean maybe trending toward amateur again.
Yeesh.
Yeah, he's gone from prodigy. He's gone from prodigy to amateur to prodigy. Now maybe trending back towards amateur. No, he's had a little bit of a tough stretch these last couple of weeks. I'm not going to lie. With the wind being maybe helpful to him because of how low his ball flight is, and it is the lowest on tour. I mean, can he get to the weekend again?
Yeah, I mean, I would. Neiman's been. It's been a struggle lately. There's no doubt about it. And
Yeah, let's
listen,
get a little look here. Yeah.
you're gonna have that with these guys. He's still so young. There's gonna be ebbs and flows. It wasn't that long ago when he broke through at Greenbrier. So he's just got to get the off the tee game dialed in. That's something that, I mean, he was automatic in terms of gaining strokes off the tee, and now he's lost in 2 straight off the tee. That's the only problem. I think he fixes that. I hope it's this week, but he's going to be just fine.
7,500, low ownership again. I mean, we saw this guy over the beginning part of the season, 9K, 8K, high owned. 5%, 7,500 is definitely enticing to me. I'll have certainly a little bit. Harris English has been chalk. Doesn't look like he's going to be this week. Struggled with his irons. Got through last week very easily, though, and then just kind of middled around. Didn't do much on the weekend. He's had a really good year. He's playing on sponsors exemptions pretty much all year, but he's in a category where he can get unlimited, which will help his status. But that's where he is. What do you make of Harris English? 7,400, so right around that same price.
So he's in a crowded price range for me. I thought he was going to be more popular, and I was going to come in definitely underweight. I still am probably going to come in underweight, but it'll be closer. He's making a bunch of cuts. I think he's cash viable. He's just not – the irons are not good right now, though. He's kind of doing it with smoke and mirrors, and there's legitimately 5, 6 other guys plus or minus a couple $100 that I have more interest in. So not for me. Over on SuperDraft, kind of the same thing. There's not enough bang for my buck. There's some other flyers in the similar range. 1.25x is not going to get it done.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to be looking down. I'm just looking up his tee time. It's the 11:35, so he's going to be.
There's nothing good about.
It's nothing good. So what we're trying to do here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just facilitate questions about the guy. Then after we're done giving our talk about them, then I'll go and look up his tee time, and that'll sway us to make the decision or the other way around, right? And here with Harris English, where it seems like you're not really in, and then you see that he's teeing out 11:35, probably makes you even more not in this instance. We're not using weather as a determinant factor here, right? But definitely in a situation where you may be on the fence of playing English. He's in the afternoon. It's an easy to get off of him. All right, someone you mentioned who I know is playing in the morning, same exact price. This guy has really found something on PGA Tour, and it's Maverick McNealy. What do you make of him? I mean, he's really being good. He's really consistent now.
Yeah, he's good. Finally. Listen, Maverick,
a little while.
This is not one where it's like, oh, I knew Maverick had extreme pedigree. He was supposed to do this the whole time. The shocking thing isn't he's doing this. It was that he didn't do it from the beginning. He has now found the groove. He was fantastic at Honda. No reason to not stop now. It's just, how do you group him between, you have him, like I said, Cauley, Ryan Moore, Neiman, Noren. There's a lot of bodies in there, but Maverick is towards the top for me.
Yeah, so interesting thing with him, I was told this, that they've been going out for a little while. I didn't know that, but if you look at the play from when he started dating Danielle Kang and going to Butch Harmon and they're practicing together, the play has significantly improved. So whether it's Butch Harmon or Danielle Kang or a mixture of both, seems like he's doing pretty well for himself. If you guys don't know Danielle Kang, she's a Spitfire LPGA Tour player. She's very, very good. Been on the Solheim Cup team and such. So just an interesting note there. I mean, everything seems to honestly be turning around, and sometimes a new coach can do that. Sometimes a new relationship can do that. So many different things going on there. So, okay, moving down. I like those names. Somebody mentioned Alex Noren. You did as well. So let's go ahead and give Alex Noren 60 seconds and just talk about Puerto Rico. I mean, was that just like he had played pretty good last couple of weeks against the regular field and just didn't want to be there, but had to be? What was that story?
I don't know. It's hard to tell because I can't see the data. Noren's been playing better. I mean, he's someone that it's been a really interesting roller coaster because most people are like, who is this guy who's ranked 7th in the world? I've never even heard of him. Like, he was dominating in Europe. He came over. and he actually played all right. He easily could have won Farmers, could have won Honda. Then the wheels fell off. Now he's starting to get it back. He had made a bunch of cuts in a row. Now, I think he's priced where he should be in a field like this, and I have no problem with him. Euros excel at this event anyway, so no real take, but he's certainly a guy I'm using.
I can imagine that this next guy I'm about to bring up, you're not going to be using, but maybe I could be wrong here. I'm getting nostalgic. If there is any place that's going to break Francesco Molinari of his Masters slump, it's going to be this tournament.
You know what the problem is?
7,200.
The problem is I agree with that, but other people do too. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, Molinari's playing awful, but
it's API.
This is the greatest spot ever. Like, yeah, good, great. Go play him and see what happens. Could he turn it around? He's an extremely talented guy. I would rather have played him in Mexico, hoping to find something which ultimately would not have worked, than a tournament where he's the defending champ and he's going to get an artificial boost based off that. So it's a long season, similar to Rose up top. These guys are not dead and buried yet, but Molinari's stats are just horrendous right now. He's losing across the board consistently.
He is, and here's the comparison from last year when he won this tournament to this. There was a couple of times prior. He played in very similar events, but he actually gained strokes ball striking. I mean, I don't know if I have him all the way back there. Yeah, see, okay, I do. So from Mexico, he showed signs that he was playing well. He, gained putting, he gained around the green, he gained off the tee. We go to this year's Mexico, it's not so much the case. We lost off the tee. We lost on the approach. We gained around the green, which is, I think, one of the top 5 most tilting things that I know of for Ben in PGA DFS. It's Molinari's around and on the green game. Yeah. When he's on, it bothers Ben very much. I can understand why. I can't get over the price. And like I said, I'm being nostalgic. I hit him here last year. I don't really have any reason to play him other than he's never come outside of the top 27 in the last 5 years here. And if there's anything that's going to get a player of his caliber back in the form, it'll be a course that he loves.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't. And I just, ownership, like everything, and it's not the greatest topic. It'll tell the tale, because if Molinari's like 0.5% owned, which he won't be, obviously that's a pretty sharp move to take a splash on a guy who can win anytime. If he gets an ownership bump based on this firm, I will take the possibly rake-free tournaments when he's just dead last. Mm-hmm. Again, if he doesn't fix it. So that's where I'm at. Hey, listen, I'm playing Russell Knox at the same price in some lineups, so that's donating too. And as Chad is pointing out, Grillo is $100 left, 71. Are you going to play him at all?
So it's really between Harold Varner and Grillo for me. Harold Varner has been a ball striking machine. Grillo, we know about his. I'm trying to look at. Do you have Grillo's tee time offhand? I know Varner's in the morning. Grillo, sorry here. There we go. He's 6:45. He's the first tee time. Yeah, actually, I thought I did know that. Yeah, I'm gonna play him. I always play Grillo though. That's the thing. It's like because of how good a ball striker he is, we just need one good putting week and he's in the top 10. And at 7,000. You've got to take some guys that have shots that have gotten in the top 10, at least semi-recently. And he's a guy that we know can. He did it in Puerto Rico a couple of weeks ago. So the next guy, literally, Molinari, Varner, and Grillo were the 3 guys that I had sandwiched in between this next guy, who you and I talk about weekly, and so we'll give him his 30 seconds again. Matt Wolff, man, we really don't know who he's going to be, and I think he's going through a really rough patch right now. And last week I was kind of in. This week I think I'm kind of out. I'm going to play him a little bit, but he's not a core play for me.
No, I mean, again, and this is what we talk about all the time. We just don't know. And right now it looked like for a little while he was like an off the tee specialist. That hasn't even been great, and it certainly hasn't been good enough to mask what are deficiencies elsewhere. I'm not worried long term about Matthew Wolff. He's got all the talent in the world. But I would rather take flyers on guys that we've already talked about, or even some of the real cheapies.
He was on featured groups all weekend, so I took a peek in the mornings, when there's no other coverage. And Yeah, he's 20, so take this with a grain of salt, right? But he definitely had some anger issues out there. He slammed his club three straight holes. One of them was a putter, and it made definitely a little indent on the green there. He had to do some work after it, like, work on the green. Golf term when I say work, had to do some work on it. It just means he had to go fix it. And then the very next hole, he slammed his iron into the ground after he duck hooked it into the water. Granted, it's frustration. But we saw the same thing from John Rahm when he first came on tour. So is he able to channel that temper and use it to fuel him? Or from what I've seen, does it start tanking him? Does he expect so much out of himself and he's not getting it where it's now affecting him? I'm out on Matt Wolff for a little while until we see him kind of come back, at least to something where he's playable. He's a little bit too unpredictable at this point for me to make a core play. Guy that's made 11 or 12 cuts this year, that's also the same price, Taylor Gooch. I mean, this guy continues to perform. What do you make of that?
So it's someone that I honestly rarely get to, but I'm in this week. He's just playing so consistent. We know the irons are the strength of his game, and he's just doing it week in and week out. When he putts, it's a bonus. Played here in 2018, looked great, just couldn't putt then. I feel pretty comfortable with him at this price tag, not going to lie.
Couple of more guys maybe that we're used to seeing much higher, and it's actually on our buddy Cooler's list as well, so I'm glad we'll hit two of these. Corey Connors and Cam Champ, two players that are probably very different. Cam Champ relies on a hot putter. Corey Connors relies on a hot iron game. Are you going to play either of them this week?
Maybe a little Cam Champ if I have like Hovland, Champ, Bomber stacks or something, but I don't see a ton of interest in them. Corey Connors, listen, there was some major red flags. I know it was just 1 week, but you've been trending downward anyway. I'm more Munoz is the guy that I think most people are going to go to in this spot. I think it's fine. Not a strong take on him either. It's pretty dead for me in the upper sixes.
I don't mind Connors. I am going back to an old favorite of mine. I think that we've settled in now. But before we move on to that, we've got a very important question, maybe the most important question we've got all week. Did you hit more balls lefty or righty? And I won't answer for you, but I'm pretty sure the answer is lefty. That's the one I've saw you swing almost every time.
Yeah, no, I played lefty. That was what I decided to do. If you saw me, you would have said you probably should have played righty, but it wouldn't have been much different. It didn't matter. I played left-handed.
There was a good, actually though, before we move on from that, there was a good video that at Rick Rungood, your playing partner, tweeted out of you sinking a nice 10-foot birdie putt.
Yeah,
good smooth stroke.
It was not bad. Yeah, little Sned's pop putt. Rick stopped in the chat before, which was fun to see him. Great guy. But yeah, listen, it was a blast. I honestly, I played a ton of sports growing up. Golf was not one of them. I could definitely see why you'd get into golf, though. It was a lot of fun.
Especially that format, scramble format.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. It was well done. So if anyone was thinking of going or thinking of doing it, definitely look into it next year. We all had a tremendously good time. All right, back to Lanto Griffin, one of my guys. We saw him win in Houston. Then we saw him go through the little bit of regression. Now it seems like maybe we're getting into a good little patch. He's still struggling. Maybe he's a little too roller coastery with his putter. I mean, you can see here we've got, since the military, it got hot, then it got real cold. Got cold in Mexico again. 6,800 though, I think it's worth it here. We've seen it come in the top 10 a couple of times, top 5 even once. So I'm in on Lanto Griffin this week. Looks like a very good tee time. You got guys like Matthew Neesmith and Sung Kang right next to him. Do you like any of those three? And then we'll go into my guy after that.
Boy, yeah, I mean, to me, and this is just generally how I build, if I'm looking for flyers, it's usually for aggression purposes, and I tend to go with the better player. Like, to me, Matt Wallace and Danny Willett are just better than all these guys.
Yep.
Now, Matthew Neesmith is playing better than these guys. I don't see the upside personally. If I needed a cash guy, which I do not in this range, it would be Neesmith. That's how I really look at it. You've got Harry Higgs, who's just a god right below him anyway, who played really well last week. I have some exposure to him on the wrong wave. That's really what I did here until we get to 6,500.
So let's talk about Matt Wallace for a second. I know we're running up on 9:30, but we're maybe a couple minutes late, so we'll maybe go through this a little quicker. But so Wallace had a great first round. I think he even shot 1 or 2 under. He was right in the thick of it, and then he ran into, I think he said on Twitter, 3 straight mud balls that led to bogey, double bogey. So he played those 5, 6, and 7 at 4 over, and he was already 2 over for the day by that point. So that pushed him to 6 over for the day, and that knocked him out of the tournament. However, it looked really good up until those 3 holes. It looked like no problem. But I will say I'm kind of happy that he missed the cut because I really do think the game is coming around. And now I think I'm going to get pretty depressed ownership at a cheap price. So I'm in on Matt Wallace here. I think talent level is fantastic. I mean, we know he's really good. We think, at least. Maybe he's the next Alex Noren, to be honest with you, Ben. But until we see that he's definitely the next Alex Noren, I'm going to play him at 6,800 in it, especially at a course that he played well at last year. So good things to draw off of.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think Matt Wallace is as good as we saw last year, but I also don't think he's nearly as bad as we've seen very recently. He's a good player. 1.45x on SuperDraft for him.
Yes,
that's intriguing.
Yep. So he was, and it's a good time to mix in because we are doing our deeper dives. Good time to mix in some of my SuperDraft plays. Matt Wallace was certainly one of them, as you guys see up here on my screen. Couple of other guys. CT Pan has been close, but not that close. He's 1.6 on SuperDraft this week. Going to mix him in. How about Kevin Chaplin? 6,200. He shot 59 here. He's also 1.6 on SuperDraft. So what do you make of Kev Chappell? Are you interested at all?
Yeah, I mean, he fits both things. On a salary cap format, he's extremely cheap. I didn't feel the need to dip that low there, but 1.6, that's a pretty good multiplier. If you're opening it up and you think maybe some guys like that can get in the mix, I don't mind it. There's a bunch of guys, in that 1.3, like Maverick, Gooch, both 1.35. For me, that's probably where I'd look a little more balanced. But if you're looking for the home run guy, he's one of the only one down there that I think has a chance to get in the mix.
For sure. And here's what I'll say about, and since we're on the SuperDraft, about the lineups that I've made. I don't put anybody below 1.2 in my lineups. It's just I have not needed to. I found guys that make the cut, especially with last week. Par was such a good score. And if you had Robbie Shelton at 1.75, he might have scored more points than Sung Jae In did. So that is kind of my SuperDraft thing there. So, all right, before we get out, my hot take is still standing. I've got 2 more weeks left on it. It's Tommy Fleetwood wins. So I'm going to stick with that, and then I'll throw in Matt Wallace top 10 as my this week's hot take. So I just want to make sure that we hit everybody. I thought I saw one name that I wanted to ask you about before we got out of here. Oh, Andrew Putnam. Yeah, one of my guys. I saw somebody tweet, ask me about him in the chat, not tweet, just in the chat.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Okay, I'm going to play the APP, the Always Play Putnam. He's going to take the other side of that.
Always.
No surprise there. Okay, so let's hear your hot take.
My hot take is I'm going to stick with kind of what I've been doing.
Jason Duffner.
No, Jason Duffner, by the way, has been fine.
Yeah, he was good last week.
He played well again. I wish he was here. I probably would play him again. It's going to be similar to that, though. It's Ian Poulter. I'm going to take Ian Poulter. I'll give him a top 5. I think he's a dark horse to get in the mix. Like I said, we saw him at the Players. We've seen him in these courses. He played better than he scored last week at Honda. 7,600, he is in the wrong wave. If he can survive the weather edge, if there is one, don't be surprised if you see Ian Poulter in the mix come Sunday.
Yeah, he's a guy that we haven't seen much of lately, and holding him down doesn't normally happen. Gained everywhere last week. So I like to call Ian Poulter sliding into the top 10 if he can survive that wave. So, all right, again, we'll give the one caveat before we get out of here. If you're betting on the weather, understand that it can go terribly wrong so many different ways. It happened to me last week. I'm going to do it again. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, but just understand it can go terribly wrong. So, all right, Ben, why don't you send us out of here then?
Yeah, well, like I said, it was a fun chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to do more giveaways. We're going to have more trivia, things like that. So thanks to SuperDraft. They made that all possible. Get in that free roll. We hope you guys grab some tickets. we hope you give the show a like. It really does help us. And you can download it, as Celia is talking about, for a good plane ride. Safe travels to her. But we really had fun tonight. Good luck, everyone. If you have any questions, you find us on Twitter, find us in Slack. You know the drill. We'll be back next week for the players. It's going to be a special show. So we'll see you guys then. Good luck.